Well, what a great cloud of witnesses. I am delighted to welcome you to this opportunity for us to witness to God's inclusive love and to speak about this amicus brief that we are going to be filing in support of Proposition 8. I am the Reverend Susan Russell. I am a priest and pastor at All Saints Church in Pasadena. I am a proud spokesperson for California Faith for Equality, and I am the chair of the Diocesan Program Group on LGBT Ministry for the Diocese of Los Angeles. So with all of those hats on, I'm delighted to welcome you here today to this extraordinary opportunity to hear from people of faith speaking out on behalf of inclusion. I'm here today because I believe that liberty and justice for all really means all, and that same-sex couples deserve equal protection from the state of California, just as they receive equal blessing from God. I'm here because I believe that the visible witness of gay and lesbian couples, given equal respect through equal protection of civil marriage, also gives to our LGBT youth the model of healthy relationships we want our children to know and to understand they can strive to have as they grow into mature as the people God created them to be. And finally, I am here because for too long religion has been responsible for planting the seeds of self-loathing that can grow into self-destruction when fed and watered by bullying, badgering, and abuse of our LGBT youth. And it's time for that to stop. When Jesus said, "Let the children come to me," he meant all of the children, not just the straight ones. And when Jesus said, "Love your neighbor," he did not say, "Love your neighbor unless your neighbor is gay." Restoring marriage equality to California is the right thing to do, not only for same-sex couples yearning to live happily ever after with the love of their life, but for young people yearning to believe that when they put their hand over their heart and pledge allegiance to that flag, the liberty and justice for all part includes them. And now I want to introduce one of my heroes, a valiant and brilliant attorney who has the author of this amicus brief that we've all here to sign on to, Eric Isaacson.
Thank you. I am honored to be able to represent voices of faith in the California courts and now in the federal courts, standing on the side of love and standing on the side of justice and equal rights for all Californians. And we started out in 2004, 2005, working with California Faith for Equality and the Unitarian Universalist Legislative Ministry and California Council of Churches to file a brief in the California Court of Appeal that was joined by 200-some clergy and congregations throughout the state. That brief was cited and quoted in the concurring and dissenting opinions in that case. We went up to the California Supreme Court in the marriage cases and filed a brief on behalf of religious organizations that had more than 400 supporters signing on to that brief, telling the California Supreme Court that the right of all Californians to marry is a fundamental civil right, and you can't take it away from people because of who they are or what they believe or because they're different from what some folks in the mainstream or the majority might think. We then, when Proposition 8 was sustained, filed a brief in the California Supreme Court trying to get Proposition 8 struck down under the California Constitution. That brief was joined by more than 900 supporters in clergy and faith communities in California. Now we've got a brief that we're filing in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and I think we're going to have even more than that. We're filing on behalf of the California Council of Churches, the General Synod of the United Church of Christ, the Unitarian Universalist Association, and many, many, many others. It's such an honor to be here in this cathedral of the Episcopal Church that is standing on the side of love, and I just want to thank you all for allowing me to represent you in court. Thank you very much.
I'm John Bruno. I'm the Episcopal Diocesan Bishop of Los Angeles, and we welcome everyone here. This is not just an issue of legal matters. This is an issue of faith. God created us as God created us, whether male, female, gay, straight, of any nationality and any race. God made us as perfect. And it's important that we join this brief and have people understand that the church supports all humanity and the right to marry. Now, in the state, I would rather that the state did all marriages, but they won't be doing them with my support if they are excluding any human being. This is a fundamental right of all human beings. And beside that, it's a religious right. It's a right of sacredness that happens in the relationship between two men, two women, a male and a female. It's a sacredness, a bond that takes place for the purpose of nurture, care, and understanding. God told us to love one another as He has loved us. And I am sure that Jesus loves each and every individual in this room and in this world regardless of their sexuality. I urge all people to pay attention to what the legislature in the state of California has done about making this a right, what the courts have done about making this a right. And to have it overturned by a referendum process, I think is very sad. The legal process is important. The courts and the society have come to the point of understanding that now we have to make sure that it's laid down in the law forever. In some ways, I see this as a landmark because of the fact that it will bring to end the discrimination that's taken place for so long. It will bring together a place where we can be inclusive and allow the privilege of marriage to be the right that it should be.
I'm Mary Glasspool, one of the two bishops suffragan in the Diocese of Los Angeles, and it is also an honor and a pleasure to be speaking here today. We are all fortunate to live in a country whose constitution guarantees the practice of religious freedom, enabling a separation of church and state so that people of a variety of different religious practices and of no religion at all can practice and live in the freedom of that. Some churches, for example, will not permit the divorced to remarry in a religious ceremony. Some clergy refuse to officiate at interfaith marriages. No one can force them to. But neither should the government mandate that people of different faiths or of no faith at all can enter a civil marriage unless it conforms to someone else's theological doctrines and rules governing religious marriage. We need family values that value all families. Religious freedom is diminished when government imposes the doctrines of some faiths on all, and humanity is diminished when anyone is deprived of a basic human right. Thank you.
I am Bishop Diane Jardine Bruce. I am the other bishop suffragan here in the Diocese of Los Angeles. I am a heterosexual, married for 29 years to a wonderful man. His name is Stephen, and we have two incredible children. And this issue for me is not a threat to my relationship with my husband or my marriage.
That's right.
This issue for me talks about the truth that everyone is beloved in God's eyes, and that we as people of faith need to respect not only the dignity of every human being, but to ensure that every human being in this world, especially now in the state of California, has a right to the same civil liberties and actions that every person has, that no one is discriminated in any way, shape, or form. For me, this is a justice issue, and I know that my marriage stands secure next to the people that I love who just happen to be gay or lesbian, transgendered or bisexual, who had the opportunity in that small window of time to be married. I celebrated with my friends at their weddings, and I urge all of us to consider the fact that love takes many shapes and forms, and it's not just one size fits one. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Neil Thomas. I'm the senior pastor of the Metropolitan Community Church here in Los Angeles and the president of the board of California Faith for Equality. And I'm delighted to stand with my colleagues this morning as we file this amicus brief to the Ninth Circuit and to the courts as people of faith. So often the religious right say that they have the voice. Well, the reality is that we have just as big a voice, and we're using that in that amicus brief to recognize the sacredness of all relationships, whether they be lesbian or gay or heterosexual. During the brief window of opportunity for lesbian and gay couples to marry here in California, I officiated over more than 100 of those. And one of the things I found completely in common between those who were same-gender loving and those who were opposite-gender loving is that they weren't marrying for rights. They were marrying because they loved one another, and they wanted the sacredness of those relationships blessed within the church and within the state. And so I am very, very proud to be able to stand here today. And I want to say, especially around the intersection of marriage equality and immigration equality and the bullying that's gone on so recently, it's been highlighted amongst our youth, and why many of us are wearing purple today is to stand in allegiance with them, apart from, of course, our bishops who always wear purple. But one of the reasons is because we know the power of the pulpit. And when you speak hatred from the pulpit, you cannot underestimate the reality why some of our youth are now bullying those who are different. And so we want to claim our religious voice as a progressive voice and say we must stop the hate. Stop the hatred from our pulpit, stop the hatred that seems to be rife in our community, and stop the rhetoric that seems to proclaim a God of hatred rather than the God that we believe in, which is a God of love and a God of peace. So thank you so much to my colleagues for standing with us today, and let's make sure that Proposition 8 is finally off the table.